So as people are trickling in, I would like to tell you guys welcome. We are going to get into our introductions very soon, but I want to first preface that this town hall webinar is going to be recorded so that we can have it downloaded and it can be shared on our social media and on our partner social media. But we want to give everyone a chance as people are trickling in to get settled in. So I will not get into the formal introductions until 6:05. But while we're doing that, what I would like for everyone to do for me is to do the pre-survey questions. I just launched those as I am speaking. So it'll take just a couple of minutes. And the way you answer these questions is based on your own knowledge. This is not a test. This is not a quiz. This is an inquiry. And just so that our committee knows and everyone understands when I mention committee, there was a committee that is part of the POP Coalition, Partners of Prevention Coalition, that put this together. And when I reference committee, that is what I mean when I'm referencing them. And just so the committee knows, there isn't a request to let people in. As soon as people click the link, they are automatically in. We already got some people in, which is really awesome. The chat, friends, I would like for you to use to let us know about technical difficulties. We want to try to keep this chat as not congested as possible so that we can get to the people who are like, I didn't get the survey, I couldn't see the poll, I can't see the presentation, I can't hear something, because I have people in our committee who will help navigate you through that. If you have a question for the panel, you'll put that in the Q&A section, the Q&A box. How you can do that is in your toolbar or your taskbar for this Zoom webinar, you will see a Q&A with a graphic of a bubble and a question mark inside of it. You'll click that and that's where you put your question. And at the end of our panel discussion, we will read those questions and your panelists will answer them for you. I'm seeing answers trickle in. I love this. Please, everyone, the poll has been launched. It's a pre-survey poll. Please take time to respond. Again, it is not a quiz and it's anonymous. So I don't even know who's taking it. So please utilize that. And at 6:05, I'm going to get into the formal introductions of who we are and why we are here. But thank you for coming. I appreciate you. Again, let's use the chat for tech questions. And then if you have questions pertaining to the town hall, specifically the topic we are discussing, let's put that in the Q&A section. Love to see it. Some more people are trickling in. As a reminder for those who are settling in, the only people you can see are the panelists and myself, your host and moderator. So again, this is recorded so that we can download it and share it on our social medias and on our partner social media. Please understand, you will not be seen. Your information will not be shared. They can't even see your name. The only thing they can see is myself and the panelists. So your identity is safe. With some of the panelists, you can take a look at their names, see who we got here, because we've got a star-studded cast for you. All righty, thank you all. Thank you all for taking the time and do this poll. We got 1 more minute and we're going to get the ball rolling. That doesn't mean you can't fill out this pre-survey while I get into introductions. Please do so. It is not a hard stop on doing the survey. And if you know of a friend or someone that's coming in and sitting with you to do this, please let them know to do the survey. I'm not going to end it until we get to the actual panel and get into our next poll. I'm going to let it stay open a little bit so that people can get a chance. Okay. All right. Welcome again, everyone. My name is Nairi Smith. I use they, them, their pronouns, and I would like to welcome you to our town webinar. So, hi, everyone. This is the New York City's Partners of Prevention, also known as POP Coalition. If you see my head go to the side, it's because I have a script, because I'm not going to ramble for you guys. We're going to keep things on task. But I want to let you guys know that if you get my profile, that is what you're seeing, because that is what is happening. But again, this is the New York City's Partners of Prevention, also known as POP Coalition, which is funded through a grant from the New York State Office of Addiction Services and Support, also known as OASAS, to present to you our first coalition community town hall called Can We Talk About Cannabis? Hold for applause, hold for applause. All right, the goals of this town hall are promote community action to reduce underage retail access to cannabis, provide knowledge of the difference between a licensed dispensary and an unlicensed smoke shop, address misinformation around this issue, and learn about local community prevention strategies and coalitions, and empower community members to take action. As I've noticed a couple more people come in, I'm reminding you again, this is being recorded. We are going to share it through our social media and our partners' social media. Your information will not be shared. The only thing that can be shared is my face and name and our awesome and beautiful panelists' face and names. The panel itself is going to get started at 6:20 after we go through all of our introductions. For those who are curious and would like to know, you can put questions about the panel or the panelists surrounding cannabis in our Q&A chat. Again, that is going to be in your taskbar. You're going to see Q&A. It'll have a graphic icon of a speech bubble and a question mark. Click that and put your question in. You want to use the chat for tech issues. I have people in our committee for this who are going to navigate tech issues and anything of that nature. Also, I have some people in the committee that are going to be sharing links and presentation links and PDF links of things that I will be referencing. So I would like for our chat to not get boggled so that we can be able to access those links as easily as possible. Just so that everyone is also aware, I am going to currently close. Actually, I'm going to leave it open. I'll leave the pre-survey open just a little bit longer. But I'm going to turn it over to Fatima. Fatima is going to talk about the action plan for NYC's POP. Fatima, please take it away.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Fatma, and I'm the Community Development Specialist for NYC POP, and today I'll be talking about the Strategic and Action Plan. So NYC POP 2024 Strategic and Action Plan's purpose is to have increased community awareness of underage retail access to cannabis and work with youth, communities, and law enforcement to enforce the existing laws. We will be engaging in the following activities to promote the message. Provide parents education about the risks of underage cannabis use, provide information to local community boards, inform cannabis business owners of existing laws and regulations relating to underage cannabis use and sale to minors, educate about the importance of following the law, penalties for breaking the law, a poster or sticker campaign highlighting stores who have taken the pledge to not sell to youth, like a cannabis version of a sticker shock, and work with community partners to assist in the enforcement efforts around illicit cannabis smoke shops. The town hall is the first part of the action plan to spread awareness and provide education about the topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatima. And in the chat, you will see the action plan link is shared with you so you can visually see that as well and have that at your disposal. I also want to say real quick that if we run out of time and cannot answer all questions that are put in our Q&A chat, we will address the questions in an email and send that post-event. If anyone needs to leave early, please let us know by putting your name in the chat and saying, sorry, I have to go, so that we can make sure we email you. We have your email attached an attendee list with your name, so please put the name that you registered with so that we can find your email and we can send this information to you. That way you don't feel like you missed out. We don't want anyone to miss out. So we're going to move on to our next situation we have here, which is we're going to end this pre-survey poll. Thank you everyone who finished that. And we are going to go into our poll where we're trying to gain interest and knowledge of the topic, okay? So we would like for you guys to take some more time, just a few more minutes, friends, to do our other poll. Oh, wait, I got ahead of myself, friends. I want to share these results, right, Fatima? I'm sharing these results from the pre-survey.
Yes.
Sweet. Let's share. Okay, I'm sharing. Can we see them? How are they shared? Amazing. Because it doesn't look any different for me. So thank you so much, Shabar. I have Shabar right next to me, who's also part of the committee. So with sharing these results and what we can see here, for the first question, on a scale of 1 to 10, being the least knowledgeable, 10 being the most knowledgeable, how much do you know about primary substance misuse prevention? We got 8 scores for this answer. And it's looking like on the more side that people feel pretty knowledgeable about this, which that means we're going to have a great conversation. And our second one, if you are a parent or caregiver, do you have open conversations about substance misuse with your children? We have an answer right here that says, absolutely, we talk about healthy decision making. I love that. And if you don't, this is not a moment of penalty. This is a moment of growth. So we're going to help you figure out how you can have those conversations, because we do understand for some people, it might not be an easy conversation to have, but we're going to figure it out together today. And number 3, which is what resources are you hoping to gain from this event? Education and laws. Oh, sorry, no, I read that wrong. Education around laws. There we go. So thank you guys for taking that. I'm going to share the town hall poll, and this is our general poll. I'm going to launch this right now. If you can take a few more minutes to fill this one out. This is when you should have like the Jeopardy music. Ooh, people are coming in quick. Thank you. Everyone, please take time to do this poll for me. Please use the chat for technical conversation, right? So if you have any technical issues, use the chat. If you have a question about the town hall or for the panelists, use the Q&A. It's okay to have questions before we even get to the panel. And a reminder, our panel starts at 6:20. Thank you so much. Again, I would like to remind people, as we got some new people dropping in, that this is being recorded. We are going to take this recording, download it, and share it on our social media platforms, and so will our partners. The only thing that can be seen when it is shared is our panelists and myself. So you will remain anonymous. Also, if you have to leave early, it's okay. Just let us know by putting your name in the chat. The name that you put in the chat, let it please be your name that you registered with so we can match it to your email. Why? Because we want to send you an email with all the information you could possibly have missed. That is specifically the PDF and PowerPoint and things that we have in here. Just to confirm, unless you're a panelist, your video is not visible and you have no audio. So if you have something you would like to say, please put it in the Q&A. If it's a question, if it's about tech, please put it in the chat. But remember, we don't want to overboggle the chat, because that's how we're sharing our PowerPoints. That's how we're sharing our PDFs. And that's how I'm going to see whoever has technical issues. I love you guys are introducing yourselves. Let's just do that so we can get that going. Please introduce yourself. It's all happening. I have the itch to say it all out loud so that you guys all hear hi, but I won't. I'll just say hi. Hi. I like to see familiar names in the chat. That's nice to hear. Yes, no, your audio and your video is not here unless you're a panelist. You are safe. You're in the clear. Please take time to do the poll. We still got a couple more minutes to keep doing the poll. Yeah, a minute, actually. We're going to give 1 minute to do the poll. I'll leave it open, but I'm going to move to our next item on this town hall so we can make sure we can start this panel at 6:20. Yes, thank you, Sarah. Sarah is reminding you guys in the chat, if you have questions for the panel or anything about this town hall, please use the Q&A. All righty. Loving it. I got 75% of you did the poll. Luckily, it's anonymous. I can't see who's answering, so don't feel any kind of pressure. But I can see that only 75 have answered. not people. All right, I'm gonna share my screen and I'm saying this out loud so that you guys know what is happening. Can you see my screen? Panelists, I can see your faces. Can you nod for me? Can you see the screen? Amazing, awesome. Because we are now moving into the section where I want to discuss the difference between licensed dispensary and unlicensed smoke shop. Okay, so as you see on my share screen right here, I have my first PowerPoint slide. New York state law allows adults over 21 years of age to purchase cannabis. Adults over 21 can possess up to 3 ounces of cannabis and 24 grams of cannabis concentrate. Cannabis consumption follows many of the same regulations as tobacco and cannot be used in motor vehicles, businesses, and most city or state-owned parks and beaches. Only businesses licensed by the Office of Cannabis Management are legally able to sell cannabis. Any business selling cannabis without a license is commonly referred to as a smoke shop and operates against the New York state law. Real quick, I'm gonna make sure that I can scroll to the next one. Yes. Yeah, and I got it. We're good on time. Sorry, guys, I just gotta get my cursor to get to the screen. There we go. All righty. So you can visually see the difference between smoke shops and dispensaries because New York state law prohibits visible cannabis imagery or any cannabis products. Smoke shops, like the one on the left, right, on the left side of our screen, often go against the law and have cannabis imagery and smoking paraphernalia visible. By contrast, dispensary, which you can see on the right, yes, there you go, are very discreet and sleek exteriors with no cannabis imagery or smoking devices visible in accordance to the law. The law also prohibits cannabis packaging that can be seen as appealing to youth, which includes using cartoon imagery like you see here. There can be no trademarked imagery either, like the Keith Haring mural or on the ceiling, excuse me. It's important that we know how to visibly identify smoke shops because we can take action to report them to the OCMD, that's Office of Cannabis Management, and the NYPD, New York Police Department. By contrast, you can see the difference in how dispensaries look visually because the law prohibits any cannabis imagery, especially anything that can be seen as appealing to youth. You can see such a difference between this and the smoke shop imagery. Additionally, licensed dispensaries are required to have the sticker you see on the top right. This is issued by the Office of Cannabis Management, also known as OCM, and the QR code allows you to verify that that business is indeed licensed. So just because you see the sticker, you need to also scan the QR code because then you can verify it. Smoke shops are more often where underage youth are accessing cannabis. Knowing the difference and reporting them to the proper authorities can help limit underage access to cannabis. And just so everyone is aware, this presentation will be at your fingertips because we're going to share the link to it in the chat. And we are also going to email it to all participant emails that have registered for this at the end of this event. And I am trying to locate my mouse. There we go. All righty, friends. Yes, awesome. It's on the chat for you guys. So, and even in that presentation, if you found, hey, you said it a little quickly. I think I missed some things. Wait, that gave me some ideas. Hold on, I definitely have a question. Please use our Q&A section to put those questions in because my panelists are itching to answer those for you, or at least share some information or insight that they have about it. But we have now come to the end of our poll. I'm going to end it. Thank you all for who completed it. I'm going to share the results. Shvar is going to show me the shared results. Hold on, let me stop sharing my screen. There we go. Amazing. Did I hit the share? Yeah?
Stop sharing.
Can people see the results? There we go. We love tech. We love live theater. So for the first question is youth substance misuse an issue in your community? 100% said yes. All right, let's talk about it. Question 2, have you noticed smoke shops close to your child's school or playground? 88% said yes, 12% said no. Number 3, do you know the difference between a licensed and unlicensed dispensary? 85% said yes. Okay, informative people, I love this. And then 15% said no, and that is okay because that's why we shared the presentation. And number 4, are there enough positive extracurricular activities in your community? 31% said yes, and 69% said no. That is beautiful to hear. Thank you so much, Shavar. Not really beautiful to hear, but it's interesting to hear because then we can actually talk about it. So we are at, oh guys, this feels so good. We are at 6:20, right on the dot, without a fail. I am on time. I need everyone to understand this is great, which means we're going to get into our panel section. Applause, 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 because that's why you guys all tuned in, or at least that's why I would have. So, alrighty, folks. Now that we're moving into our panel, let me introduce to you our panelists, our POP panelists. And I went over all of this with our panelists, so I'm hoping, put prayers up that I say all of this correctly. So first on our panel right here, we have Patrick, Craig. Patrick, give a wave so they can see which one you are. Amazing. A parent coordinator at Erasmus High School. Mix Patrick's Sykes Craig has been the parent coordinator of the high school for service and learning since early 2023. With over 15 years of experience in public education and community organizing, Patrick has worked across all grade levels and worked closely with the LGBT Center of New York, Brooklyn Pride Center, Prospect Park Alliance, CAMBA, and the New York City Council over the past decade. Hi, Patrick. Next, we have Ruth Corey, a parent, small business owner, and member of the Family Advisory Board. Ruth is an author, advocate, mother, and owner of the Coco Pauline Company, serving youth ages 14 through 24 who have been impacted by the juvenile justice and foster care systems to navigate while healing from trauma. Give a wave, Ruth, everyone. Say hi, Ruth. Next on our panel, we have Anthony Moore from WEPA Prevention and WEPA Prevention Advocate. Anthony Moore is a prevention advocate with WEPA Coalition. He has been a teacher, mentor, and prevention educator working with the youth and parents of Harlem and the Bronx since 2005. Anthony, give a wave to the people. Hi, Anthony. We have Osbert Orduña, legal dispensary owner of the Cannabis Place. Mr. Orduña is the CEO and founder of the Cannabis Place, a certified social equity cannabis dispensary business licensed in New York and New Jersey. The Cannabis Place was the first adult use cannabis business entity to receive service-disabled veteran-owned business designation from New York State. Mr. Orduña is a first-generation American of Colombian descent and grew up in New York City public housing, where he experienced firsthand the injustices of New York City's stop and frisk policies. Prior to becoming an entrepreneur, Mr. Orduña had a distinguished career in public service. Give a wave, Mr. Orduña. Everyone, give a hi, give a hi. Next, we have Senator Natalia Fernandez, elected official sector. Okay, we have Senator Natalia Fernandez, the first Latina to represent New York's 34th Senate District, is a passionate advocate for working families, seniors, and marginalized communities. As chair of the Senate Alcoholism and Substance Use Disorders Committee, she leads the fight against the opioid crisis while championing education, mental health, and social justice. Please give a wave, Senator. Everyone give love. Yes, yes, yes. Next, we have Reverend Addie Banks, also from WEPA Coalition. Reverend Addie Sanders Banks is not the bio I need to read right now. Don't worry, this is live theater. Okay. Reverend Addie Banks is an executive director of Groundswell Group's WEPA Coalition. We engage in prevention awareness. That's what WEPA stands for. And the CEO of the Groundswell Group, an organizational capacity generator for community solutions, where she champions community capacity building and substance abuse prevention. As a co-founder of the WEPA Coalition team, she plays a vital role in addressing the complexities of prevention of marijuana use and its effects on youth. Over the past 6 years, WEPA has been dedicated to empowering youth and families with prevention tools through environmental strategies and evidence-based programs in 12 community sectors, which include our schools, after-school programs, treatment and recovery centers, faith institutions, and other community anchors. Give a wave, Reverend, give a wave. Amazing. And last but obviously not least, we have Prince Lewis, a freshman at Cardinal Hayes High School, an alum of Saint, help me out. Austin.
Athanasius.
Athanasius, come on, freshman. Okay, thank you. Athanasius School. He became actively involved in the Youth Leadership Coalition, which helps youth to become advocates for change regarding their neighborhood environment, specific to the marketing of substances to youth. He has presented to Bronx Community Board 2 for South Bronx Coalition and his high school peers. Give a wave, Prince. Family, this is our panel. We're going to get ourselves started. I would like to remind you that this is being recorded. I know I keep saying it, but more people keep dropping in. So this is being recorded. That means it's going to be downloaded. We're going to share it on our social media platforms, and our partners are also going to share it on their platforms. Just a reminder, the only thing that will be shared is the faces of the panel and myself. All of your information is safe. If you have to leave early, please put your name in the chat so that we can cross-reference it with the name you registered with, so we can email you the information you may miss. Okay, let ourselves begin. All right, you're correct. Thank you, Makeda. So we have some preset questions that we would like to ask our panelists to address first, and then we'll open it up to the questions that will be put in the Q&A box. A reminder to use that box for your questions, because we might not address it in these 4 questions that we will give to them. So starting us off, I'm going to go through order. Right? If you have an answer, you're willing to give it. If you don't, that's completely okay. Our first question is youth/underage cannabis use an issue in your community? If so, how has it impacted your community? And please explain. I'm going to kick it off because we're going to go in an order on my screen. So each person's going to get a chance. So the first I see on my screen is Ruth. Ruth, please share me your thoughts if you have them.
Yeah, I'll go really quickly. So my short answer to that is yes. I think that some of the impacts are yet to be discovered, but what scares me the most is the access so young to unregulated, what seemed to be a friendly environment to purchase. It's no longer the person on the corner in the shadows. It's now in the corner store what it looks like. So yeah, I do think yes.
Thank you, Ruth. Next on my screen is Patrick.
I will say it definitely has impacted my community, but also my school community, in the sense that I completely unite with Ruth. Like, the level of access that youth and teens have to retail marijuana is like unparalleled in generations before, and that has created definitely some trouble spots in the way of education, as far as students using marijuana during school, after school, before school, and finding a way as a school community that we can like temper that access or even eliminate it has been difficult. So definitely it has had a great impact on my community.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm moving now to Oscar. Mr. Arduino.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Yeah, we've definitely seen the impact in our area. Unfortunately, in our area, just within walking distance of our licensed dispensary, there are convenience stores, smoke shops that are selling, unlicensed cannabis products. You can go there in the afternoon after kids are out of school, 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening, and you see the kids, online, and they're purchasing what clearly they should not be having access to. And it has a negative impact on public perception in the community, because there are those who choose to not see the difference between these convenience stores and unlicensed, these smoke shops that are selling unlicensed product, and lump us as a licensed business that is following all the rules and regulation, and they put us in the same basket, but they, don't take the time to say call 311 or take proactive action against those places in the community that are not doing the right thing, and instead vocalize at the precinct community council or the community board or at other civic associations, and direct their displeasure and ire towards us, when in fact they should be directing that to the businesses that are doing the wrong thing that are in the community. You know, no one can enter our store if they're not 21 and over, and they have to show ID at the door. You could look like you're 100 years old, and guess what? If you don't have your ID with you, we'll very nicely apologize, but refuse you entry, regardless of whether you've shopped with us before or not. If you don't have ID with you, you can't get in. And that's not the case at these other places where literally you see kids, you know, shopping there on a daily basis.
Thank you so much. Thank you also for clarifying that. That's more insight into what we just discussed with unlicensed smoke shop versus licensed dispensary. Anthony, you're next on my screen. Would you like to share anything with this first question? Or would you like to move on? I see.
I'm sorry, was that for me? I couldn't hear.
Yes, no, I was saying
Okay,
if you would
great.
like to
Yes,
contribute to this
thank you so
question.
very much.
Yes.
As someone who works with the youth directly, I'm in community centers, I'm in junior high schools as well as high schools. I can say definitively yes, capital Y, capital E, capital S. There are several layers. First, I will say the lessened perception of risk. And so now you have 12 and 13-year-olds arguing with me when I'm telling them about the dangers of marijuana because of the ease of access that they see it. They see it at the same store their mom buys baby food and diapers. And so in their mind, if it's this accessible everywhere in the same stores where everything else is being sold, then it can't be that dangerous. And so now that adds an extra barrier to us in prevention, for we have to teach them about those dangers because they're learning in an unhealthy environment with just over access. They have over targeting. I have a very big issue with a specific store that is right next to a school that I work, and it is a huge storefront. And it is nothing but cartoons and IP characters that the kids know. And it is literally right next to the train station that all of the kids get off of the one train and get on the bus to go to the school up the hill. And so with them being inundated with all of this, the marketing, the illegal marketing, because what I respect about Mr. Orduña and the legal shops is you wouldn't be able to tell what kind of business it was from the outside. It does not change the look, the smell and feel of the corner that the business operates. And in my neighborhood, the corners that have those smoke shops, it negatively affects the entire area, but it also normalizes for these young children. This is all they know. All they know is this. And unless you have parents like the ones that are on here tonight, unless you have prevention professionals like us teaching these children, they're learning just through their environments that not only is this accessible, but it's acceptable. And so that's one of the biggest problems that I've.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you. Next I have on my screen is Senator Fernandez. Do you have anything you'd like to say on this?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for gathering for this important conversation. I am State Senator Natalia Fernandez, and I represent the East Bronx, District 34, the communities of Throgs Neck, Parkchester, Castle Hill, Country Club, City Island, Pelham Bay, and even New Rochelle and Pelham in Westchester County. I agree that this has had an unintentional effect on our young people. Mr. Osbert said it the best, how our dispensaries, you wouldn't even notice it. They're supposed to be a very secure location, and they are, because they have the security, they have all the regulations followed, and it really is the bad actors, the small businesses that have taken advantage of the unknown. When this bill was legalized, and signed into law, they quickly jumped on, and I have to blame even, our past governor, who was slow to fund the Office of Cannabis Management to implement the prevention mechanisms, making sure that we had proper education, making sure that we're moving fast to get legal cannabis on a correct market in the correct places. So this unintentional consequence is something that I am very concerned about too, because I don't want young people to try this sooner. I don't want them to go into school high and to, yes, see the normalization of it at a younger age. And we really need to get ahead of it in getting that education to them about the harms, about the realities, same way we do as alcohol and cigarettes and everything else that is legal also on the market. So thank you so much for this conversation. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, Senator. Next on my screen I have is Prince. Prince, do you have a comment on this for me, love?
Well, not really. There's only when it comes to cannabis, I've only really had like one instance of hearing about it, and it was in my own school. Actually, it was in Cardinal Hayes when I was there for summer success, and it was about a student apparently being caught with, well, a student apparently being caught with like something like marijuana or cannabis. I don't remember which one, but it was something to that effect. And apparently that hasn't really been an unheard of thing in Cardinal Hayes, because they handled it relatively well, and they had spoke about it over the loudspeaker and saying that they would go check over the cameras to see who was in the bathroom when when that smell of cannabis or marijuana had come around. And that situation, I believe, was handled already. But back at St. Athanasius, my middle school, there was every time that we would go over to St. Athanasius Church near our school, we would always have to walk past a smoke shop, and it was very colorful, typically colorful. I think it was called Moon Rocks. It was very colorful, like neon green colors, white, black, white, and neon green. And all of the smoking items like hookah or a vape were on display at the front. And that's really all I've witnessed when it comes to that type of stuff.
Thank you.
That's really it.
Thank you so much, Prince. Next on my screen here is Reverend Banks. Reverend, do you have any comments on this? You're muted, Reverend. Also, thank you for those who alerted us that my mic was in my dreads and my locks. I fixed that now.
Thank you. A lot has been said. I'll just add that legal does not mean safe. And this has created a perception that because it's legal, it's safe. Although most of us adults know that cigarettes are legal, alcohol is legal, they're not safe. And so there's a misconception in the culture that because this is legal, it's safe. And apparently, because we've had tables pop up on every corner, every bodega, where's my candy store now, is a smoke shop. It seems that it wasn't even apparent to people that there would be shops like Mr. Obert's that is for adults, that are it's marijuana that has been legally enforceable, that it's safe, that people can use it. It's only for adults. You have to show ID, and it's a business that is reputable and doesn't deface our community and is just for adults. So those are some of the challenges we have in our schools. We hear that people are coming in high in the morning. Young people can purchase this at bodegas. Looks like it's candy. And we are inundated with these shops. Just on the corner, just at my supermarket, we had a truck outside. Down the street from me, I'm in a small neighborhood that has residential and large buildings, but now our streets have totally shifted, and this is going on 24/7. A table, a stand, a tent, and so it's overwhelming in our communities. We legalized without policy, as the senator said, without strong policy.
Thank you, Reverend. Thank you all, panel. That was our first question. If there is parts in that first question, you as participants and audience members want to dive into or things that they said, I welcome people to use the Q&A chat function in your toolbox to ask that question so we can address it later. The second question I have for you all on my panel is, what impact do you find the increase of pop-up smoke shops, which we kind of already got into, but let's dig deeper, right? And cannabis dispensaries have around the city. So I'm going to go in reverse order, but since cameras coming on and off, now the reverse order is randomized. So stay alert, I guess, because the first thing I see in my reverse order right now is Prince. Prince, how do you feel about the impact that we find on the increased pop-up smoke shops and cannabis dispensaries around the city? What's your opinion on that?
My opinion is that it's really getting worse for our community. As more smoke shops open, the worse our community is getting when it comes to youth safety. And since it's so apparent and accessible, means that it could put our community into a downward spiral if nothing is done. And I also have something to say about cannabis use and other types of illegal substances that have been made legal. Just because it feels good to do it doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do. Just because it may smell good doesn't mean that it's good for you. Just because it might taste good doesn't mean that it's good for you. I also, one time, I had seen a senior in my school, and apparently he was high. He didn't look high, he didn't act high, he didn't sound like he was high, but he was under the influence. And there was something else I was going to say, but I had forgotten.
No, that's okay. I love the message that you shared, though. I want everyone to take note. This is coming from a freshman in high school. Just because it looks good, just because it tastes good, smells good, does not mean it's good for you. Thank you so much, Prince, honestly. And what you're talking about your senior in high school, you're talking about the perception. Just because it looks one way in media doesn't mean it's always the same way you meet in person. Next on my screen, I have is Anthony. Anthony, do you have anything about these pop-up smoke shops in your community? What do you feel? You are muted, my dear. Let's try again.
Let's try again. Thank you. So first I just want to say, Prince is, right on track. Like, for him to already know that at this age, I could tell he's been around some adults where he's been getting this education. And I just want to, plug WEPA. We engage in prevention awareness, and this is the type of information that we want to give to our youth so that they can combat the misinformation that they're going to get from their peers and from media about this stuff. And the proliferation of these pop-up shops are really increasing the rate at which young people can get this stuff. It used to be difficult for the high school kids to get their hands on these things around the school. Now, literally, when I walk into schools, I'm walking through clouds at times, and I have to look at the teacher when I walk into school like, no, that wasn't me. That was right outside the school, because so many of these shops are opening up within walking distance to schools and to playgrounds and to daycare centers. And like, that's my main hotspots, is they are so close in proximity to the kids, and oftentimes they're in the same stores that sell candy and snacks and junk food. And the last thing, my son has an affinity for these Japanese drinks. He's into anime. The only store that sold them was one of those smoke shops. And he almost went into that store one day to get the drink. And I had to stop him like, no, you can't go. But just having to do that to my son, at the time he was about 11 or 12. But he didn't know what he was about to walk into. And so them having these stores, unregulated stores, having these unlicensed stores, and combining the cannabis with the candy and the chips and the snacks, that is the part that definitely is increasing the rate that our children and youth are exposed. Thank you.
I was muted now. I realize. I understand it. Thank you so much. Actually, I see that Mr. Orduña, you put something in the chat, but you're also next to my screen. Do you want to reference what you said in the chat and also take a shot at this question, my friend?
Sure. So 2 parts. First things, I want us to make the distinction, right? Because words matter and, they're super important. And so I want us to make the distinction between, we keep saying pop-up smoke shops and dispensaries, right? And to me, the unlicensed storefronts that are illicitly selling unlicensed products, they're not dispensaries. They're masquerading as a dispensary, but they are not a dispensary. They are actually an unlicensed storefront that's engaging in the illicit sale of, unlicensed cannabis. Dispensaries to me are licensed businesses that have followed all the procedures, all the protocols, that have received the license from New York State and are operating in a lawful and compliant manner. So, I wanted to make that distinction. But there's also a thing that we haven't really spoken about thus far, which is you have your pop-up smoke shops, right? That are all over the literally all over the city. You also have the unlicensed storefronts that also, many of them are masquerading or doing double duty as a convenience store. Sometimes people say bodega. I don't like to use that term because it automatically creates an implicit bias towards businesses that are owned by Latinos. And that's not the case, right? These are convenience store establishments that are owned by people of many different backgrounds. And so that's why I use the term convenience store. And along those lines, the one thing we haven't covered is the online platforms, Google, Instagram. You can go in right now and have unlicensed cannabis and a plethora of other things delivered right to your doorstep. We have engaged with the governor's office. We have engaged with Google, where in some cases, these unlicensed delivery services have dropped pins on Google Maps. And they're like in parks and cemeteries, wherever they're, and you'll go in. And if you put, dispensary near me, cannabis near me, what you're actually being directed to is these unlicensed delivery services. That has to stop because those places will deliver to anyone, anytime. They're advertising cannabis and other things as well. And it's not, I want us to be clear, right? New York now, post May of 2024, with the new legislation, the Padlock to Protect efforts, they've done a lot of work in a positive direction. Should have happened on day one, but let's focus on where we are right now. So a lot of things have happened since, positive things, enforcement actions, and again, not in favor of Prohibition 2.0, having been a victim of stop and frisk my entire youth. So not in favor of going down and kicking doors down, whatever. I am in favor of civil enforcement methods being utilized to stop and padlock these unlicensed operators, because that's, they can pay a fine. They don't care about the fine. What they care about is not being able to open that gate, to open their doors every day. So Padlock to Protect is a great initiative. And I can tell you that us as the Cannabis Place Dispensary, having a location, in New York City and in Jersey City, it's not just a New York City issue. In Jersey City, the same thing is happening, except that they're, a year behind us. And so they've done nothing to stop the proliferation of these unlicensed storefronts and smoke shops that are selling, unlicensed products. And just like in New York, you have the, things that look like ice cream trucks that are selling unlicensed products. You have people popping up tables at, street fairs and stuff like that, and selling, things that have packaging that clearly appeals to children. Stonios and other types of things that look like cereal boxes, but are filled with unlicensed products. And so, that needs to stop. And collectively as a community, we need to come together and take action to, let the parties that are doing this, for example, Padlock to Protect, to be informed as to, it goes back to in the early 2000s when the people would say, if you see something, say something, right? When it was related to terrorism. Guess what? We just do the same thing when it comes to these unlicensed operators, to protect our community, to protect our kids, and to ensure that the actors, the bad actors that are trying to turn our kids into a profit margin are held accountable and not able to do so.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for breaking down that distinction, honestly, because we do need to be careful about the words that we're using. Thank you very much, Mr. Adunia. And also expressing the words that we use that also can hurt cultures in certain communities, right? That is something that we need to take time into, and I appreciate that. I have next on my screen, Patrick.
I feel like there isn't much to say that hasn't been said. Speaking for my school community specifically, I've heard tales of the legislation being they're not supposed to open within 500 feet. Well, licensed dispensaries can't open within 500 feet of the school building, but these pop-up buildings, literally we have some that are like directly across the street from our school building. So again, like the level of access that youth has to this and like the appeal of it at the same time, like basically like Uber Eatsing cannabis. So for teenagers, that also can create addiction a lot earlier than we've seen in some places because of like the level of access, which like can just lead to like a casual like dependency on cannabis, which is something that like I think a lot of like school communities are struggling with at the moment. But I have definitely seen the abundance of pop-up shops in our school area and all throughout like the Flatbush and East Flatbush schools.
Thank you so much, Pat. Thank you very much, Patrick. And you talking in regards to laws or regulations about where it can open up in close proximity to public places like schools or playgrounds or churches, conveniently next to my screen is Senator Fernandez. I was wondering if you can clarify that because I've heard 100 feet one time. You know, Patrick said 500 feet. Do we know what that regulation is? But also I want you to answer the question as you were intending to do so, but I wanted to throw in a curveball.
Yeah, we're ready for them. So the question was what was the effect of the pop-up stores? That was the original question.
The pop-up, the actual question verbatim is, what impact do you find the increase of pop-up smoke shops and cannabis dispensaries have around the city? The difference, distinction, as Mr. Dunya said, how you feel about the pop-up smoke shops, but also how do you feel about the cannabis dispensaries?
For sure. Well, I don't like to see the smoke shops, and the smoke shops that don't advertise actual cannabis, but advertise the pipes, the papers and everything else. That's the loophole that we've discovered because those shops are, licensed as convenience stores to sell everything, but they don't have a liquor license. They don't have a tobacco license. They don't have a vaping license, but they are able to sell all these other items and yet secretly they sell that. So constant enforcement is something that I've been asking our law enforcement for, even just that, so that the smoke shops are opening and saying that they're, selling all these items when secretly they're selling that. So that's a law that's been introduced that has yet to pass, unfortunately, for whatever reason. And it's not just me that passes the bill. Again, to pass a bill, it is to pass through both houses by majority vote to then get to the governor's desk to sign into law. And that is a bill that has been introduced. It's in existence to limit the amount of smoke shops that are opening in our neighborhoods, because what it really does is take away opportunity from other business owners. We want our business strips to be diverse. We want them to have different products to sell and not every other 3 stores a smoke shop. And it was mentioned here about the advertisement and how, they also neon lights with the cannabis leaf. When the law was written, it was with the consideration that we don't want to advertise this to make this, hot thing to do. They're supposed to be discreet because only those that look for it legally should be able to find it on the OCM website and find their dispensary and shop it there. What we found out too is that the law, again, trying to be more concise and holding all this information in the OCM website, it didn't say that non-licensed shops can't be on Google. It said that licensed dispensaries can't be on Google. It can only be on OCM. So that was something that we did change in the last 2 years that this has been legalized, that we're trying to remove Google from from listing the unlicensed ones and now also listing the licensed ones. When the law was originally passed, licensed legal dispensaries could not advertise cannabis, marijuana. They couldn't even put a picture of a cannabis leaf, while next door, the illegal shop was. So changing parts of the law to allow legal shops to advertise clearly as to what they are is something we've allowed. We've made illegal that you can't create items that are targeted towards children's, like candy packages, vapes that look like highlighters. We passed that this year to make it illegal. A problem is though, because we did stop the sale of flavored vape, stores are still getting it, they're still selling it. And that's part of the enforcement that I also give to the sheriff's office at NYPD, that this store is selling vapes that we had legalized 2 years ago, and also cannabis that they should not be doing too. So the enforcement part is a big partnership, in this effort to make sure that they have constant check-ins, whether it's small business services, consumer affairs, and NYPD and the sheriff's office, to make sure that that business owner is following the law with the licenses that they have. What we also
I'm gonna give you all one second, because you're getting into some of the good stuff that we'll actually address in question three, and I want to give a little more room for our last two panelists. But here's my compromise to you, Senator. I'll have you start question three. You feel like that's okay, great. Because I had to get into teacher mode where I had to cut us off just a little bit. I apologize, because I have Ruth next on my screen.
No problem. But as far as the distances, it was to match what we did for what it's been with liquor stores. Liquor stores can't be 250 feet from a school or a church.
250.
Yeah, 250. And we did shorten it down from proposed 500 once upon a time. So they do match the same rules that liquor stores have liquor licenses and should be enforced that way.
Thank you so much for answering that. I'm going to repeat it. 250, not 500 feet, 250 feet. So like Mr. Duny said, if you see something, let's say something, because if it looks like it's not 250 feet, I'll go out with my yardstick. We'll figure this out. All right, Ruth, you're next on my screen, darling. How do you feel about this question? What impact do you find the increase of pop-up smoke shops and cannabis dispensaries have around the city?
So I'm going to answer this as a parent. Because although I work in this space, I had absolutely no idea until I stepped into the space that these shops weren't illegal. Because again, you see them, like I'm following my community, Black and Brown community, was the community that was most affected by the arrest and the jail of those who were using and selling marijuana. And so to my understanding, this was supposed to be a way to right that wrong. And so what I'm noticing is that the licensing, what I thought was licensing, wasn't going to people that look like me. And so then it's, okay, well then how is this happening? And to learn that the places that I was seeing weren't legal, and that there were very few that had even gotten that license, was disturbing. And so now we have small business owners that are taking advantage of that. They've already got a location. All they have to do is fill it with products, which is that the Black and Brown families that were affected by this, they didn't have that. It's not as easy for them to get the loans. It's not easy for them to get the locations. And the expansion of product when it comes to marijuana, I'm almost 40. When I was a kid, smoking was the only option. And so now, as a parent, when it comes to prevention, they've got vapes, they've got things that they can go in the bathroom, take 1-2 pulls, air it out, and you would never know. They can smoke anywhere. I work in a group home, the same group home I came out of. Things have changed. How do you can't even smell it. We had to go outside. If that's what you did, you had to leave the premises. And so now we've got edibles, gummies, brownies, cookies, all kind of things that aren't regulated. And you want to know what the real impact is? Last year, a childhood friend of mine, her daughter died on her birthday, on her 20th birthday, right? Because she bought something that was laced, a marijuana product that was laced with fentanyl. That's what happens. Our children don't see adulthood. So this is not about adults. I have a strong feeling of the policing of Black and Brown families when it comes to substance abuse, but we're not talking about adults. We're talking about children. We're talking about prevention. We're talking about middle schoolers that are having access to marijuana products that are in chip form. They're like Fritos. That blew my mind. Like, what more do we want from parents who have to work 2 and 3 jobs just to pay the rent, put the food on the table? I got pushed out. 2019, I moved to Jersey City. So when he was talking about what's happening in Jersey City, same thing. Around the corner from my house, me and my daughter, we swore it was going to be a restaurant. We were so excited. it's a smoke shop. And so I think that platforms like this and having these conversations and pulling parents in, we didn't know. We know now. And so what can we do to raise our voices? Because before I knew they were legal, I'll call every day until they come shut it down. Because it's, if not my kid, then my kid's friend. And we all know that's how they get introduced. It's a friend. It's like, this is okay. And so if it isn't your problem today, it will be your problem tomorrow if you have a child that lives in this city. So I just think it's really important to get the information out, let parents know legal versus illegal. The photos that you showed in the beginning, real cut, dry and to the point. There shouldn't be anything in the window. There shouldn't be anything enticing children to come in.
Yes. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you so much. Again, this is about education, just like Ruth has said, this town hall is for open discussion, because what we want to do is inform people, right? We don't want people to not know the things that we know that can help, right? We're not trying to scare anyone. We're not trying to mislead anyone. We're trying to correct the misinformation. We're trying to educate. We're trying to bridge the gap because we want to protect our youth. So we have something that I didn't mention before this panel for everyone who is in here. We have a very diverse panel, as you can see, not just in generation, but we also have a diverse in sectors. People on this panel are representing different sectors. In the bios, as I had read them, I read to you where they're coming from. So, you know, we have youth, we have parent, we have educators, we have someone representing a religion sector, we have a government sector, we have a business owner, okay? Because we want to educate, we want to have a conversation, we want to bridge that gap. And for last but not least, and I don't know how you ended up last again, I'm so sorry, but Reverend Addie, my dear, how do you feel about this question? I'd love to hear your thoughts. You are muted, my love.
I said it's okay to go last because it's rather inspiring to see the level of awareness, because we are about creating awareness. But I just wanted to emphasize the impact piece, that what we're seeing, because one of the things we do as coalitions is we try to work with all the sectors of the community to educate and inform them and to give them access to information. And we also do assessments so that we know what is happening in our communities, one-on-ones. The town hall is one of those kinds of processes, but we see that this impairs the young brain. The teenage brain, as we know, is what we call the dangerous brain. That brain doesn't work the same way our brain works. It's the experimental, adventuresome brain. So the kids don't know unless we tell them. If this is so available and accessible and they want to know why is it legal and it's not safe. We're seeing that parents don't lock up their gummies. We've seen so many emergency room casualties from young people getting gummies from their homes. We see parents not being aware that the kids have ways to hide this in their homes. So we're really trying to see how we can impact something that seems to be culturally acceptable in certain communities. The more we proliferate these shops in our community, the more normalized it becomes. And it's just not the way a healthy community looks. You don't need 10 smoke shops in a 5-block radius. You don't need 2 on every block sandwiched between a liquor store. And these are some of the processes that we're working at. We're trying to create toolkits for the different sectors so that people know that you have to be able to address this. And together, the power of coalitions is all of these voices together can make a difference. All of these voices together can really move this thing, because we don't have the policies. I'm so grateful for the senator. I'm so grateful to see a businessman who's here who does this legally, who shows the distinction, to see parents. With this kind of process, we can certainly move the needle.
Thank you so much, Reverend. Thank you, everyone, for answering this. I want to let everyone know, because we do have a couple new people sitting in, we're going to get into the open discussion at 7:40. So if you have questions as they arise, as you're hearing these answers and responses to the preset questions, please use the Q&A chat. function in your toolbar. This is being recorded and it will be distributed through our social media platforms and our partners' platforms, but only the panelists and myself will be shown in this recording. Everyone else will stay anonymous. I've been seeing some lovely things in the chat here. If you have a comment or question, that also can go into the Q&A, because I will not be able to read it and address it here, but I can if it's in the Q&A for me. So I want to move to question 3, which is, what barriers do you face, which we started to get into, when working with your community to address the use of underage cannabis? And I gave the promise to my senator, so I'm gonna throw it at you, my dear. What barriers do you face?
Thank you. Did want to highlight that I dropped the link in the chat. Thank you for resharing, because I didn't think to catch everybody about what is the rule. So I was a little off there, but you have the full information on what is the distance. But talking about the barriers, it's again, when we don't have partners in the community that want to help, that want to do the right thing, that want to follow the law. We have put in new laws since we've seen the proliferation of smoke shops to now bring in the property owner, the landlord. You are leasing your space to a business owner. You need to make sure they're doing legal business. And that was the problem that we saw, that a lot of these little buildings and storefronts, the landlord didn't even live in New York State sometimes. They didn't even live in the city. They were unaware of what their tenant was doing and allowing this to happen, knowing that, not knowing, but the tenant, as we know, was selling illegally to underage people. So there are now laws that put onus on the property owner, that if your tenant is selling illegally, you must get them out or you will be fined thousands, tens of thousands of dollars every day until doing so. And we put a law this summer, and we've seen the padlocks going up and stores getting shut down. That if it is found cannabis is being sold, padlock, because before they would just take the substance and allow you to keep doing business. What would happen the next day, they would restock everything. So now we're putting locks on the business that you cannot continue until it is checked and verified that you're selling illegally. And actually, there is risk that you will lose every other license if you're found to sell illegal cannabis. That if you're selling cigarettes, you will lose that license. If you're selling lotto tickets, you will lose that one. Same thing with alcohol. So these are now, I don't want to say the word, these are penalties that will be given if, as a unit, as a partnership, landlord to tenant, business owner to business location provider, that if you're not doing the right thing, you will lose your business. So the hope, and we've seen it happen, businesses are closing, and even landlords are calling my office like, I didn't know that they were doing this. I want to shut them down. Help me. I've written letters for their court proceedings to say that as the senator, I've seen with my own eyes what's going on there. And it allows the landlord to evict them quicker, to move the eviction process quicker. And now even landlords are struggling to get new businesses to open in there because of what was done with the past business owner that may want to do the right thing now, but now they lost their chance because they started doing the wrong thing. So the partnership, again, is needed. And as much as we're educating ourselves, like if you're in that bodega, let me not use that word. If you're in that store, and I apologize, if you're in that store and you see the clerk, selling to it, say something to them that, they're harming that child, they're harming this community, and they're harming the peers around them that now have to see this of one of their own getting high at a young age and hurting themselves. So that partnership, it's on all of us. It's as much as we say it starts at the home. Talk to your kid, monitor your child, make sure they're doing the right things, become friends with the store owner to say, watch my kid, don't sell to him. These are extra steps that we don't want to feel we have to do, but sometimes we do. The motto, it takes a village, is very real when it comes to this.
Thank you so much, Senator. And I want to toss it over to Mr. Dunya because you have something you want to add from the last question and then tackle on to this one, please.
Sure. I just wanted to follow up on what the Reverend was saying. One of the things also when we talk about the oversaturation in many parts of our city and of our state of these unlicensed storefronts, these convenience stores that are selling unlicensed products. Along with that, it's important to note that the current New York State law requires that licensed dispensaries are 1,000 feet from each other, just like there's a distance, as the senator can attest to, between licensed alcohol establishments. And the reason for that is to prevent oversaturation of any type of business in a community. Something that is of concern is currently the Office of Cannabis Management, or the Cannabis Control Board, has proposed a change that would create a way around that, an exemption process. And so I know that myself and other members and advocacy group members and other business owners, we don't agree with that. We think that that's a bad idea, because removing the distances between licensed dispensaries is not a way to open more licensed dispensaries, right? Because we don't want to, just like we don't want, like the Reverend said, 2 liquor stores on the same block. We don't want 2 dispensaries on the same block. This is not Little Italy where we're selling, pasta. These are ultimately substances that are for adult use. And, one particular neighborhood should not become the green zone. We think that's a terrible idea. And so I'll share the link. And I think that, for those that want to comment to the state that think that this is a bad idea, as we do, the time to do so is now, before the Office of Cannabis Management changes that regulation and allows a waiver process so that businesses can be closer, licensed dispensaries can be closer than 1,000 feet from each other.
Yes, please share that link, share it now. That means we have the power, friends. I'm learning today, so please ignore my facial expressions. But thank you for sharing that, because I did not know that. And I like to be active in my city and neighborhood council. All right, I am going to toss it over to Prince, because Prince also let me know that he has something he wants to comment on, something that was said in the last question, and then go into this question. Prince?
Yes, I had something to add on to something that Mr. Moore had said and something that Ms. Ruth had said. I'll start off with adding on to Mr. Moore about the cannabis and candy combined substances and stuff like that. There was one time that I had went to the hospital for some reason. I don't even remember why, but that's not important. But I had been waiting, and I had looked next to me, to the left of me, and there was a girl in a hospital bed who was hospitalized. And from what I overheard, the reason why she was there is because she had accidentally overdosed on those edibles. Like, she had accidentally overdosed from it. And that just really stuck out to me when we were talking about the candy and cannabis combined edibles and substances. That's just what it reminded me of. And on to Ms. Ruth about what you had said about the distances from, well, what mostly everyone said about the distances from churches and schools and stuff like that. I've never heard or been told about like the distances of 100 or 250. I've only been heard about 60 feet. Like 60 feet maximum. Like 60 feet away maximum. That's what I've heard. And from the smoke shop that's near my school, that it looks like it's over 60 feet, or it could be under 60 feet. Like, it looks a lot closer to the school than it is, because it's right next to a corner store too. It's right next to a corner store, and it's in between a corner store and a barber shop. So I just thought maybe it was under 60 feet or above 60 feet. I'm not sure, but I've only heard about 60 feet space from building, like important buildings, like business buildings, schools, daycares, and churches and stuff like that.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because now, Prince, you can go and you can tell everybody that it is 250 feet for a licensed alcohol store, liquor store, and 500 feet for a licensed cannabis store. I think something to address that what Prince is saying the misinformation that is circling out there, but also seeing things and being like, that looks a lot closer than it should be. There is a difference if they are unlicensed, right? If it is a smoke shop or a corner store that is promoting that it's selling, you know, sandwiches and things of that nature, things that we had discussed just previously in the other questions, but then is also more secretly or discreetly selling cannabis or other things that they aren't supposed to be selling, then the issue about the 250 feet and the 500 feet don't come in effect because they're not licensed and registered as what they're supposed to be selling. So that could be what you are seeing. You're looking and you know what they're selling there, but it's like, this looks like it's 50 feet. It should not be. Please tell your friends. All right, I'm going to move to the next on my screen here. Next on my screen is Patrick. Patrick, reminder, our question is, what barriers do you face when working with your community to address the use of underage cannabis?
I would definitely say one strong barrier is parent knowledge and community information about which dispensaries are legal and which are illegal. And I think that you all have done an awesome job in like illustrating the difference and the distinction. I think that's a very strong barrier, but I also think another barrier is information to our youth and young people about the effects of marijuana, especially on teens and adolescents. And many of them don't know or understand that it's not something that's like alcohol that depends on your body weight, but like it ultimately depends on your brain chemistry and it affects differently. Sorry, I'm having literally a loud sound. Sorry, but it affects you differently than something like alcohol, and literally depends on your brain chemistry. So like the information to use about the effects of marijuana on their body, but as well as the mislabeling of certain products. Like we've had as Prince spoke about earlier, some of our students definitely take overindulge in things like edibles and things like that because they don't know how they work. They just know that it's available. I can buy them. A lot of times, these illegal dispensaries that are disguised as convenience stores, parents think they're buying their kids lunch. Like they'll have like a parental credit card or like a cash app, and they'll see a charge from a convenience store, so they're buying sandwiches and chips, but like there's also illegal cannabis attached to that. So a lot of times parents have no idea that their kids are even purchasing these things. So that creates another barrier in communication with families about how to resolve these issues. And it's great. I work in the school community where we have a substance abuse counselor, a CPS counselor, and there are schools all over the city that have these available to students, especially high schools. That guidance counselors, parent coordinators, other administrators can refer them to, as well as families can inquire about these things, that they do exist. But the outer knowledge, I feel like, to like parents and families and community members doesn't exist as to what's okay, what's not okay, how does it work with teens, when am I seeing an illegal dispensary versus an illegal one? I think it would really help if there were more promotional materials and community groups that literally like just like their sole responsibility was informing community members about what these things are. Like pop.
Like pop. Look at that plug right there. Just in case you didn't know, Patrick Craig is part of the Pop Coalition. So we're going to keep rebranding our message if we say that. But yes, it's about education. Thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you very much. I have next on my screen Reverend Banks, Reverend Addie. I know you're not last this time, my friend.
Thank you, Patrick, for that segue, because I was thinking about the developing teenage brain that is developing until there's your brain, here's your skull, and your brain is like this, and it keeps growing. And if you induce this substance into the brain, we know it starts shrinking the brain. So kids don't know that. They're not aware of that. Parents don't even know it. So those are the kinds of things that we need to get out. We've had several campaigns on bus shelters, billboards around legal doesn't mean safe. I keep thinking about how only 10% of Americans were still smoking cigarettes 5 years ago, only 10%. But now that number has been raised because adults are educated, but kids are not. So we don't only have kids smoking or doing edibles, we also have them using tobacco and not knowing that smoking a blunt is actually getting addicted to nicotine. So maybe you're not addicted to marijuana, maybe you're addicted to nicotine, but you have this craving and this urge because you're using two substances. So information is critical for our young people. And like you said, that's in our schools, we're doing education, but out on the street. So we have our billboards, we have our QR codes. We're trying to get information out in community centers. A lot of our kids are not in school. So we're trying to see how we can reach those young people who, for all kinds of reasons, have dropped out of school. They're not there anymore. Because this is the risk of losing a whole generation of young people. I can't tell you how, when me and my coworker, my program director were in schools, and every day we would come in, the bathroom was, the whole school reeked of marijuana. And we were like, how can they not know this or stop this? Because this is happening right on school property. And I think of the link between, we can't smoke in public places, but now there's smoke everywhere. I mean, you're driving in your car and you can smell this anywhere, but we can't smoke cigarettes in public places. We think about the environmental impact of smoke. Well, this is still smoke too. So there are so many pieces that need to be addressed, but I feel really encouraged by this panel tonight because there are things that I didn't know that we've been working on and talking about. And okay, those things are in motion now. So I think together, collaboratively with our awareness campaigns and coalition building, we'll get a handle on this, and our entrepreneurs will be able to do their work and support our communities, because I think businesses coming into our communities make our communities better. Responsible business people make our communities stronger. They also contribute to our work. They can contribute financially. They can support sports teams, etc. And those people who are not in those places, we can't allow that, because if there's no enforcement, you can't do anything about it. If you don't enforce something, no one's going to obey a law. But together, as we work together and we do this kind of work, I think we'll be able to get a handle on it. So this has been a hopeful experience for me to hear the panelists tonight.
Thank you so much, Reverend. And that's what we're hoping, is that it can be hopeful. And thank you for mentioning that one of those barriers is just being that adults seem to know. And we use that in tobacco, but now we need to bolster that focus into cannabis. We already have the template, we have the layout, we can make the work. Well, another thing I just want to throw in there is, with this newest generation, to try to educate them, we got to battle a whole new feed, a whole new monster that I like to call social media. Because that's the best way to get to a lot of the youth and the younger generation, especially if they're not in school and yet they still have a social media account, But
So check
next,
out our social media and check out our
yes,
posts.
we're
They're
sharing all the links to all of our panelists, the ones that they consented to share. We will be sharing it that way. I promise you that. Another great source for information when it comes to health concerns around cannabis is the Department of Health and Hygiene Department. All of their stuff is free and accessible on their website. You can always access that as well. I wanted to throw that out there. Also, OASAS, who is our funder for not only this event, but for Pop Coalition, also has information about the health concerns and information and policies and regulation around cannabis as well, not just for New York City, but for New York State. Next on my screen, I see is Anthony. Tell me what you feel.
Let me make sure I'm not muted. Okay, so I echo all of the sentiments that everyone already said. I would just say, as far as barriers, you guys said it already. Information, prevention, education. Adults need to know what we can do to ensure the safety of our children in the future. There's a science here. We are here to spread this. And so the biggest barrier is the lack of involvement by the community, quite frankly. We work here in the Bronx, and I grew up in New York, and it's definitely a different community feeling now than in the 80s and 90s when my grandmother, Minnie Moore, was leading the housing association in St. Nick, getting them to do block parties for us and getting them to put lights up in the parts where it's dark and getting them, the community would get together and have to tell the councilmen and the police what they needed. And when the community spoke loudly enough, then they acquiesced. And so what we need to do is we need to coalesce our community. We need to get, our fellow parents, our fellow professionals, everyone who cares about the future of our children. Because to reiterate what Reverend Hattie said, like, we really have a whole generation of children's future on the line right now. And we as the adults making another thing, regulation and enforcement. That's another thing. So we have the education, okay, the prevention education, but we also must have the regulation in time, okay, in a timely manner, and the enforcement in a timely manner that makes sense. Because I must say, this is the first time I'm meeting Mr. Orduña, and I just want to say we definitely need to collaborate because we're on the same page, because these other illegal businesses are cutting into what you're doing. And so it's like, we really need to be on the same side, because if all of these businesses were legal, we really could mitigate all of these other external negative, costs to our children and to our communities. So I would say community building, coalescing into coalitions, and just, passing on the information. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you for your 2 cents. And I will come back to you, Mr. Junior, after I get to Ruth, so Ruth can have a chance. Ruth, please tell me your thoughts.
Yes, thank you so much. So I just wanted to also, more along the lines of what Anthony is saying, I just want to stand up for our parents. We're talking about one substance that has now taken on about 20 different forms, and some of them you can't even smell, right? And so we've got that, plus the internet, plus I have a 23-year-old in a few weeks, and I have an 8-year-old. The drastic difference between what was being targeted to her at that age as opposed to my 8-year-old, I'm fighting for my life. Where's the community? Where is the grandma or the uncle that you're already standing outside? Why? I feel like the stores are comfortable. The community is not making them feel uncomfortable. You go in and you buy your soda. Do you say, hold up, wait, you're not supposed to have this in here? No matter what you choose to do with yourself. I drink wine. I don't give it to my 8-year-old. And so I wouldn't want those products and things available to her. So where is the community? Where are we going to stand up as you standing in front of that store? You know it's there, but we're not making them uncomfortable. Now that we know, first thing is knowledge. Parents didn't know. I work in this field. I found out because I was connected, right? And so I didn't know the difference between the illegal and the dispensary. Now I know, and now everybody I know knows, because we are a community. But I find that the community is gone. Everybody's minding their business, and I don't want to say anything. Well, then you're part of the problem. If you're gonna go in and buy a juice from them, go someplace else where they're not selling it. What can we do to fight back? That's where you fight back with your money. If you're gonna go in and support them and not stop and say, yo, you shouldn't be doing that. Yo, I'm gonna call, not go outside in the corner and call in the store. You're not supposed to be here, because it's not about the product. It's about yourself. Underage children have access to this. And so I don't care what it is. I don't care if it is legal. I feel the same way if it was alcohol. But we have so many regulations and campaigns and things. We need to expand in the conversation with marijuana. We need to let parents know all of the forms. How much more do we want from our parents? Even if I don't give my child a cell phone, but other parents do. So when they go to school, they have access. You want me to go to school with my 3rd grader? They won't let me. So at a certain extent, it's so much put on parents that have to work 2 and 3 jobs. I pay for college cash. Do you understand? So again, what more do we want from parents? If it shouldn't be there, it shouldn't be an option. If it were, I could just think of a whole a number of things that they should not have access to.
No,
That
and I
we're-
agree with you. I agree with you.
the
Rich.
products are being
Truthfully.
created by the day. I don't even know what's in a vape. The vape for the oils that the marijuana is coming in, like, what is that?
I couldn't unpack that for you, but I want to make sure that because we're reaching our 10-minute before we go to the open discussion, and I have already 8 questions in our Q&A box, that we get a chance to address our last question and the preset real fast. So I'm going to let Mr. Dunya answer. We'll respond to the comment he'd like to say, but also be the first to answer this 4th question, which is, what prevention efforts on underage illegal cannabis sales and use do you see in your community? So what prevention efforts on underage illegal cannabis sales and use do you see in your community? What prevention efforts or strategies would you like to see happen to prevent underage cannabis use in your community? So what do you already see that's there, and what would you like to see there be? Mr. Ardunia, please respond with what we were commenting in the chat that you wanted to speak on first, and then
Yes.
tackle what you see.
Yes. So I just wanted to add to, Moore's comments. One thing that people don't realize is licensed dispensaries, we pay a cannabis tax. Those tax dollars go into what's called the Community Reinvestment Program. What that means is, for example, I'm located in Queens. Those cannabis tax revenue that we collect goes into this Community Reinvestment Program, and then the state currently actually has open right now the Community Reinvestment Grant application. And what that does is it allows grants to be given to 501c3 organizations that are in communities that were disproportionately affected during cannabis prohibition, to address specific community needs, from housing to childcare to job skill training, and so that's something that is an important distinction that also needs to be made. That is something that that advocates should be aware of, that they have a 501c3 in their area that is working with young people and providing services, et cetera, and particularly in communities that have been disproportionately impacted. Now is the time to apply for this Community Reinvestment Grant Program. It's the first time this cycle is being opened, and so it's a great opportunity to show how licensed businesses that are paying their taxes to the state are now also contributing to this Community Reinvestment Program. Currently in our community, I don't see anything. I'm not aware of any programs that are doing this specifically, that are addressing this need. What I do see is 3 businesses within a half-block distance of where I'm located that routinely have minors shopping at the stores. People are turning a blind eye as they see the paper bag coming across the counter, the cash being slipped over. But people are more concerned about getting their bologna sandwich. And so, they're not saying anything. They're not being an active participant in the community. They're just turning a blind eye. That's irresponsible, right? We need to, you see something, you say something. Why? Because that's how we make our communities better. If everyone were to just ignore things that happen around them, guess what? That creates anarchy and chaos, right? We need to step up as a community to ensure that that's how, people talk about, oh, there's crime, there's this, there's all these things happening. If no one says anything, guess what? It keeps getting worse. But if people take the time to even anonymously, get involved or say something to the owner of the business, et cetera, however they want to address the matter, do something about it. Don't just go home and complain to your significant other, like, I can't believe they're, selling this at the convenience store down the block. No, call your local elected official, call your city councilman, call your state senator, call your assembly member, and let them know what's happening at that location. They have staff that can go and, refer the matter to agencies that can investigate the matter, or they themselves can go and check for themselves. Because if we don't say something, nothing's going to be done about things. But again, I reiterate that one of the things that I hope that 501c3 organizations in our community and in communities across the city, take an opportunity to do is to apply for the Cannabis Community Reinvestment Program. And so that way, literally the millions of dollars that have been collected from cannabis sales fees can be reinvested into in impactful ways throughout the city and the state in areas that have been under-resourced, underserved, and over-policed.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I do want to address something that is being put in the chat. People are trying to state when reporting these unlicensed dispensary or reporting something that you see, your safety is a primary concern. We are asking you not to be a bystander. We're asking you to be an upstander, but we are not asking you to put yourself in harm's way. Do it the best way you can. Just do it. We are not telling you to be confrontational. We're not telling you to get confrontational. It could be a contactless and anonymous tip that you can then see through by just constantly making those anonymous tips. That's what we would like to remind those.
And if I may, in New York, it's super easy, 311. You're
Yes.
completely anonymous. You don't have
Yes.
to, give any personal information. Or if you want to send an email, it's literally smokeshopcomplaints@sheriff.nyc.gov.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yeah, exactly. 311. You put that email in the chat. I'll share it with the rest of the attendees. I want to bounce it to Senator Fernandez because you had your hand. I'm liking these hands. So I know I said I was going to bounce back and forth this way, but I don't want people to lose their thoughts. So what I have is Senator Fernandez going to go. I have on deck Reverend Addy. I feel like Ruth, you're giving me this amazing, really focused look. So how about I put you in the hole? I have Anthony next to Ruth in the hole, maybe? I don't know what's after on the hole. I didn't go through baseball that fast. All right, so Senator, please take it away.
Yeah, I kind of did lose my point that I was going to say, but Mr. Odunya, I did touch upon it, the fact that there is supposed to be investment, and what we lack also is every school having that extra program. Like, unfortunately, school budgets can't, mandate it in the school, but there's a few schools in my district that are fortunate enough to either find the grant to budget it themselves, or, they're finding organizations that are getting state funding and begging them to come in. And we shouldn't be begging for this education. It should be something that is within our curriculums. I truly believe it. I'm trying to get that change in there, but if anybody knows, it's really hard to get curriculum changes at a New York State level. So that investment is there. It just needs to be more, and shutting down these illegal shops and, supporting the legal industry will give us billions of dollars. The first year it didn't even reach, I think, $500 million because of all these illegal shops. And now we are seeing more profit come. The shops that were closing down, the legal dispensaries are doing better in those areas. But yeah, we got to stay vigilant because there is a great opportunity to really bring back billions into our communities to fund these programs that can be in our school, giving those that direct counseling and support to our young people, educating them. In essence, I always bring up the DARE program. It's a canceled program because it was once, a fear mongering program. Like it was run off fear and not facts. And as a DARE kid, 5th grade, I'm not gonna lie, I was like freaked out too, everything that they were telling me. But I swear it still sticks in the back of my mind, to be vigilant, to know that there are dangers with substance use. So once, we really get the full cup of the investment that's supposed to be there, I see this turning around. And, I don't want to say like be patient, because no, we can't be patient with the safety of our kids. Absolutely not. But I do believe that we can get there as a state, just like they did back in the 20s, 30s when they reversed prohibition. Like people were making liquor, selling it everywhere and anywhere. And we just have to continue the crackdown, continue, being persistent on regulation. And now that market, it runs on its own, and we do follow the laws. And those that don't, we see people that's get in trouble for selling alcohol to underage people. Yeah, I think it can level out. But this work right now is all we need, and we need to continue to do to get to that good place, because we see where, there's holes in the system, there's holes in the play. I'm trying to think of analogies here, but
I understand.
it is
I completely
key
do.
to progress that we want to see.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. Reverend Banks. You want to unmute yourself, darling?
Yes, it was said
Yes.
already. Thank you. It was
Oh,
said.
it was perfection.
Yes.
Do you want me to then go through the?
I'll just add about
Okay.
community safety. Stay safe. I put in the chat, call 311, get on your community board, join WEPA, join a coalition. You know, the person that I know, I could go in and say to him, what are you doing in the store here? Because I've known him for 10 years. I could go into that store. But in a lot of places, you are concerned about your safety. You can't do that. So stay safe and report it and join your community planning board. Our precinct does patrols now. This is our newest thing in the last 6 months. They're patrolling our community. They're patrolling the stores now. So you can do it. You can report it. Thank you, Senator. You said what I was trying to say.
Thank you. No, honestly, thank you. That's great for me. Ruth, do you have a comment for this? What efforts do you want to see or what efforts you're seeing?
So what I want to see more is the power of our dollar. Like I have to walk in my community 2 blocks out of my way because they don't have those products there. Like I said, I have just my 8-year-old. So a lot of the times I'm in the store, it's me and her. She's not allowed outside by herself. So there are a lot of parents that we're doing the best that we can, but go out of your way if you can and not, because if you continue to shop there, then you're talking out of 2 sides of your mouth. If there is another option, no one said you have to attack the store owner, but you not opening your wallet is an attack. It is a fight back. And I just feel like everything is about convenience, convenience, convenience. And if it matters so much, can you go another block? Is that the only option? Or is it, this is convenient for me, so then you can't be on 2 sides of the fight. Are you going to help parents? Because we need help. We cannot regulate this on our own. We have to be the village for, the next generation. Like we have to help each other. So fight with your dollars, call 311, get together with other parents that do care, and you guys can write emails and make calls. And, if there's any of these things are interesting to you or you want to know how to get those things started, reach out to Nairi, reach out to us so that we can help put those things together, even if it's just parents or providers. But fighting, it doesn't always have to be physical. I'm a firm believer that the Black dollar is very powerful when used in the right way.
Thank you. A complete reiteration of that. Anthony, take it away.
I just want to add that we are boycotting that store. No one in the block goes in that store anymore. No one.
Just for context, we're addressing something that was put in the chat, everyone, okay? Someone shared an experience of what happened when someone tried to report some illegal activity at a corner store. Unfortunately, a crime had been committed, someone's life was taken. And so we're talking about how you can address it. And that's what Reverend Banks is responding to, and that's what Ruth is responding to. You can withhold your dollar to make an impact. Anthony, give me your 2 cents.
Honestly, I can't add anything. Everything I wanted to say was already said. Very well said, panel.
And that's okay. We love to agree. This is the village. All right, Prince, do you have anything you would like to see in the efforts for illegal cannabis shops or efforts that you have seen?
Yes. One thing that I would like to see is more so 24-hour surveillance on. Lord, I should have thought about this more.
You're doing great, darling. If you want to put in the chat because you feel like you're better at typing it, if you need some more time, I will circle back to you. We still have over 15 minutes.
One thing that I would like to see for sure is more 24-hour surveillance on any smoke shops that don't have licenses, or even if they are licensed, like 24-hour surveillance anyway. Like I've seen when it comes to certain things that happen in South Korea. South Korea has cameras everywhere. Not a single inch of land in that country has no camera. Like there's always cameras everywhere, always surveillance everywhere. You couldn't even commit a small, minute crime without being caught in South Korea. So I think that there should be more cameras and a lot more surveillance, and also a lot more health checks too.
Thank you so much, Prince.
Health
I like
inspections, I mean.
Yes, no, I completely understand what you mean. You want there to be check-ins, you want compliance checks. I fully understand. Thank you so much, Prince. Patrick, last but not least, take us away. Our last question, our last response.
Not to give another shameless plug, but one of the great things I've seen in the Flatbush and excuse me, East Flatbush community is the presence of Canva and programs like the Yes Coalition that actively do youth work and youth programming against substance use and misuse. Um, so art clubs, poetry clubs. We have trans gym. There are so many different programs that Canva and Yes employs with the undercurrent of substance like misuse and abuse to like inform the youth in our specific community. But there should be so much more. Like I remember when I was growing up, I'm a like millennial. I just turned 38. Even though DARE was very much, as the senator said, like very fear mongering and fear based. There was DARE, there was rap, there was This Is Your Brain on Drugs. We had a myriad of programming coming from all sides. So like if we decided to use controlled substances or uncontrolled substances, we had an informed decision to make, where I don't think that's present in contemporary, especially because a lot of our young people, especially our Gen Alpha kids, use social media as a knowledge point and a reference point, and it's just not there for them to just make an informed decision. Like the Reverend talked about the developing brain. As your brain is developing, you want as much information as possible on whatever decision you decide to make. And there's the access to these substances without the information of even the benefits sometimes to our youth. As much I'm very much a harm reduction person as much as I am a prevention person. So you just need to know. So I would very much like for that. What the absence is the programs like Yes out there that let our youth know what it is they're getting into. I think we need that across the board on TV, on social media, in the school, in the community. People that auntie in the store just like, hey, they're not supposed to sell here. You need to leave, or you're not supposed to sell it to kids. We need definitely more of that. So I definitely unite with everything everyone said here. And yes, like more of that. More of that. That's what we need.
I'm muted. There we go. Thank you so much for your response. I'm smiling ear to ear because Patrick mentioned one of POP's partners and one of the subcommittee for this town hall, another coalition, which is my great segue to remind you that inside this chat, you had seen links being flown around. One of the links is to not only POP Coalition's one-pager and action plan, but also the one-pagers to all of the coalition's organizations and businesses that came together to bring this to you all. So please click that link and take a read, because then you'll get to learn more things about other organizations like Brooklyn. Yes. So I'm just excited about that. I'll get into why a different day. But all right, folks, we finished our preset questions here. We are a little over the time that we thought we were going to end and get into open discussion, but I don't know about you. I don't feel bad about it because these were great conversations, great things to share. I have 8 questions in our questions and answer or Q&A box here that I'm going to read. And what I'm going to do, and I'm saying this out loud in such a like fanatic kind of way, because it's different than what I told my panelists, but do not be concerned. I'm going to do the hand raising method. I liked it close to the end of the questions. You guys were telling me, I have something. I think that'll be a great way versus bouncing back and forth, because it might have looked cool, calm, and collected when I did it, but it really wasn't for me. So we're going to read the questions. And if any of my panelists have a response to it, please raise your hand. If you don't, that is completely okay. You don't need to have one. And if we do not get through all of these before we get to the end of our open discussion session, which is 7:55, Lord have mercy, let me go faster. Don't worry, we will respond and email it to everyone else. Okay, so with that being said, the first one we have here is, can the elected officials do something about the images that are posted on the stores? Why are these images in the Black and brown communities? You don't see them in other communities. So anyone who has a response to that, please raise your hand and I will call on you. Yes, I see. Okay, I saw a physical hand by Senator Fernandez, and then we're gonna go Prince, and then we're gonna go Patrick.
All right, yes, we are trying to address this. We know that these illegal stores are using all the bright colors, the fun images to try to entice people to come in. So legislation is there, and OCM plus what is State Sheriff's Department is going one by one to address them. Why are these stores opening up in our Black and brown communities? I think that these, business owners that are trying to exploit and get as much bang for their buck are just targeting us. So there are efforts being made to, again, stop the advertisement, to allow the legal ones to advertise a little bit better. But again, we don't want to put big marijuana leaves on any window storefront. So that's not anyone's intention with this. And it is in law that you cannot advertise that.
Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much for responding. I'm glad that you did respond, especially since it was calling out our elected officials. I also want to say real quick for my panelists, as you are responding, if I get too many hands, I'm just going to do the top 3 so we can try to get through some of the questions. And if you're like, what I had to say was truly very important, please put in the chat and I can post it to everyone else in this. Patrick, tell me your thoughts.
I completely unite with what the senator said, but I also wanted to add that it's very much not just in Black and brown communities. Like, I live in Prospect Heights, which is a very culturally and ethnically diverse community. It's there. I'm in workshops and trainings all around the city. I've seen an abundance of smoke shops on the Upper West Side, Greenwich Village. So it's everywhere. And so to my parents out there, I want you to understand, it's not just like a color issue. It's our children issue. I think the Reverend said that earlier, or Ruth. We're talking about our kids. So this is very much not a color line issue. It's a business thing and regulation issue, very much so. So I need our community to very much keep that in mind when we're trying to face these challenges. It's not this is affecting all of our youth, everybody. So we really need to keep that in mind. It's not, I think it's a little bit more noticeable when we live and experience in those communities and we have so many other issues. But it's everywhere. It's everywhere across the city and state.
Thank you so much, Patrick. I'm going to get to the next question because we are at our 3-minute mark. Our next question here is, what about adults who may purchase legally but congregate in groups outdoors and on the streets where youth are present? They have the heavy smells of marijuana on the streets where young people are even adults with allergies walk is a problem. So from what I'm getting at, this is, what is your opinion on that? Alrighty, I'm seeing hands fly around, but I'm going to give a hand to someone who hasn't spoken just quite yet. Prince, what do you feel about that?
I feel like it's very much of a problem, and it's beginning to grow as the days go on when it comes from me going to school and coming from school. When I was in my middle school, sometimes there were people smoking marijuana or normal cigarettes a lot, and even on my block. And sometimes I would have to just hold my breath to walk even past the people that are doing it because there's so much of it, and I didn't want to breathe it in, because when I breathe it in, my head starts hurting, and I'm not really, it just doesn't feel good. It's not a normal migraine or a normal headache. It's just an aching pain that you can't really get it to go away. So I just hold my breath sometimes. And not only is it outside of schools, but it's also downstairs in train stations too, or upstairs in train stations. There's a lot of smoking marijuana that goes on down in the train stations too, from Intervale and Nereid Avenue to 3rd Avenue, 149th Street, and
Yes.
even Grand Concourse. And there's just a lot of that going on, and I try to, well, not ignore it, but I try to remove myself from the situation before anything else could get worse.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And just to clarify, it is against the law to smoke marijuana or anything else in transit areas. Let's get Reverend and then Senator and then Patrick.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's no enforcement around it because we couldn't smoke cigarettes in restaurants. We couldn't smoke in public, in parks, etc. We couldn't drink beer without it being in a bag, etc. And now we can just smoke anywhere, and it's prolific. It's everywhere. And so there's no enforcement around that. And youth tell us about this all the time. Like the 4th and 5th graders say 2 things: dog poop and the smell of that stuff. Those are the 2 biggest complaints that we get, is dog poop and that. What can we do about that? Senator, thanks for being here. I know you're gonna get behind this.
Real quick, I'm so sorry, I'm just gonna jump in so that we can continue answering questions. I still want to note that the post survey has just been shared. Please, while you're listening to these answers, fill out the post survey because we are at 7:55. Senator, take it away.
Thank you. Yes, following with what the Reverend said there, everywhere that it's illegal to smoke a cigarette, it's illegal to smoke a marijuana cigarette. Public parks, in front of public buildings, in front of schools, in front of libraries, in front of hospitals, you're not supposed to smoke there. But are people smoking when they're walking down the street? Yes, and they're also smoking cigarettes. I think we noticed that the marijuana smell more because it's a new smell that's in our regular life. But as someone who absolutely despises cigarettes and everything about them, I smell that every day too and everywhere I go. So I think this comes with public education and, you know, encouraging good behavior to not smoke in these places, that it is interfering with your neighbors, with marginalized communities like seniors and youth and all that. And for storefronts, that is an issue too, the loitering right in front. But the store owner, it has jurisdiction of the immediate, I think, 7 feet, 5 feet in front of that door. So they can put the rules too. Do not stand in front of my door here smoking your whichever you choose to do. And, you know, that's tough too, because sometimes people will fight back on that. And that's a risk on the store owner. But we did put legislation to help give grants to businesses to put safety measures like emergency buttons and camera systems to help track you know, the activity that's happening. So a little bit, yes, on the business owner, you have that right to address what is happening in the 7 feet in front of your door. But on the other side of the sidewalk, they have the liberty to be there too. So I hope that everyone does, you know, follow the law in not smoking in anywhere that you can't smoke. But we can be a little proactive in letting them know that you're on camera and getting those cameras, utilizing the assistance that the state has given to do that. And again, putting the onus on them to make a better decision.
Yes, thank you. Patrick, please give me your response, and Ruth, so that I can try to get to one more question. It's okay if you put it in the chat and I share it with the people? Amazing.
Just really quickly, and like to add on to what our other brilliant panelists have already said, just to give parents and guardians like more power, even if you don't know how to connect with like these organizations and coalitions and neighborhood and community organizations to fight with it. You do have a parent or association, you do have a PTA, you do have an SLT that you can join. Those organizations have budgets and have power, and you can literally say with other parents in your direct community, we don't want these here, and actually affect or change. So that's another avenue that we all, that especially parents have to act, not we all, but anyone who has children in New York City public schools has access to, and is a resource for fighting against this and raising awareness to it even. And I just wanted to say that because I might have to drop off for another community meeting at 8, but definitely use those tools at your direct disposal, even if you don't have the ability, because we're busy, like you said, working 2-3 jobs just to pay the rent. Like do what's closest to you. And that's something that you can do that will ultimately work, because there's power in numbers.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, Patrick. And we are at the last final minute, so I'm going to implore everyone to please do the post survey. This is a great way to tell us how you experienced the webinar, what you took from it, and it gives us a good idea on how this went and how we can conduct our next one. That is my little cliffhanger for that for you all. But thank you everyone for sitting with us. Thank you to our panelists. Big hurrah. The questions that we didn't get to, there is about 6 of them. We will send email responses, post this, so you can still get the answers to the questions that you asked. Sorry, I'm sharing some more things that are happening in the chat. Please, panelists, if you feel comfortable, unmute yourselves and give a big good night. And
Good night, everyone.
yeah,
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
yes.
Mr.
do talk
Arduna,
amongst
we need
yourselves.
you to do the workshops for the small
Yes.
businesses.
I'm gonna share these
Absolutely.
emails. Y'all got some
We
stuff to
need
say.
you.
That is okay.
Yes, this was great. It needs to be at least
Patrick.
quarterly.
Thank you.
This was
Home,
amazing. It was a
darling. It's
wonderful
coming
opportunity.
back.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. It was great
Thank
to be
you.
here with
Thank
everyone.
you so much.
Everybody have a great evening.
You have a great evening. Please,
Bye,
you say-
Patrick, you
you
rock.
see something, you say something. We're here to educate. That's what
Yes.
we want to do. All right. So please make sure you click those links. Please make sure you have a great night. It is 8 at the dot. I am not going to take more of your time. I will not go at 8:01. I'm going to try not to. So please do the post survey if you can. Oh, it's 8:01. Please go to do the post survey. Please have a great evening yourself. If you haven't had dinner yet, have a great dinner. Okay?
Nairi, you're the best.
I'll
This was
see-
Yes.
Thank you so
Yes.
much,
the whole
Nairi, this was
team.
great.
Madam
You were great.
PRC, thank you.
Yes.
Amazing
Anthony
moderator.
Moore, awareness, you're doing it.
We're doing it.
We are doing it. It's a village and we're passionate
Yeah.
out here. Again, these will be sent to your email. I appreciate you all. You must exult. That's Shavar in the background.
You
Thank
gotta
you
tell
all
me
Okay,
twice.
so
Shavar.
much.
Bye.
All
Thank you
right.
so much.
Good
If
night.
you're on my committee and you want to stick around because you got a little time, that is okay. If you are not, vamos.
I'm on your committee,
you
but
so
I'm
much.
to leave.
That's okay. No, I understand you.
Thank
You
you.
praise your homage, hun. It is okay. Senator, thank you so
Senator, I'll be in
much.
touch. Thank you.
Please keep in touch.